What is up, everybody? This is your boy, Teran Rodriguez, bringing you another edition of Set Point. And as always, we have a jam-packed show as we have a lot to talk about in the world of volleyball, as this is the Season 5 finale. That's right, Season 5 finale. Can't believe it's here already. As the AVTA Women's Volleyball / Terraflex Coaches Poll will be released tomorrow, meaning that I'll be having my top 10 projected teams that will be in said top 10 AVTA poll. Also, the Manhattan Beach Open from the AVP was a banger, as we had a lot of parity in the tournament on the women's side. We also had a new champion being crowned, and someone else that also wound up winning it for the first time, as well as a little bit of a reach. And I'll be reflecting on everything that happened in Season 5. So hand me a volleyball. Set the net, because I'm about to trigger some volleyball action here on Set Point. Teran Rodriguez bringing you the Season 5 finale of Set Point here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome one, welcome all to another edition of Set Point. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, Sunday wherever you are listening from and watching from. Either way, you've made your way into episode 260 of Set Point. And without any further delay, let us begin. But first and foremost, Set Point would not be where it's at without IE Sports Radio providing the platform to go live on StreamYard. Please do follow IE Sports Radio on several different social media platforms such as X, Instagram, Facebook, especially Facebook, and on TikTok. And also follow IE Sports Radio on several different podcast platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, Amazon Music, Audible, CastBox, Deezer, Podcast Addict, GeoSalvin, Podchaser, the list goes on and on. And also check out our website, iSportsRadio.com, for all of your latest sports news, our blog, our merchandise, which definitely check out our merchandise shop, where we are actually having a 20% off summer sale where you will get 20% off your order. And if you buy an order's worth of $50 or more, you'll get it shipped for free. Also, check out our shows dedicated to each podcast or pages dedicated to each show, such as Set Point. And we also have our blogs for you all to chat and interact with, and our Hall of Fame, which I am actually a part of. For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. The way you can follow Set Point on social media is on X, formerly known as Twitter, at @set_point_IE, on Instagram at @set_point_IESR, and you can follow me personally on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Teran Rodriguez1. Before we get on into the volleyball action, we have to give a shout out and a word to our sponsors, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky and Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. Without any further delay, let's see what they're all about.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, single-A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all-brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
That's right, everybody. Definitely check out all of our amazing sponsors, such as Plant Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. There's their Instagram, and there's where you can order their delicious jerky. Where if you buy an order's worth, if you buy an order's worth of $50 more, you get it shipped for free. And also, if you message Plant Jerky on Instagram and tell them that you heard their ad and bought their merchandise courtesy of one of our ads, you'll get an extra bag of jerky shipped to you. It's a small bag, but hey, free is free. And Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. There's their Instagram, and there's where you can order. Definitely recommended for all of your baby showers, weddings, birthdays, anniversaries. The list goes on and on. All right, without any further delay, let's get on into that volleyball action. Before I do so, I do want to apologize for the late start. Well, for starters, I messed up in the beginning. I messed up in one of my past shows. So that might be for like bloopers for when I celebrate my 6-year anniversary or 5-year anniversary of Set Point. And I want to give you all my best just because this is the season 5 finale of Set Point. I want to give you all my best. And I feel that was not my best in terms of my intro. So there you have it right there. And also, if you're wondering why I'm on a Sunday as opposed to being on my usual Monday, well, I am very booked for Monday. I got work at my real job, and then I've also got a PA announce a volleyball tournament semifinals, third place match, and final. So that's 4 volleyball matches I'm going to be PA announcing. Better go get me some halls after this, but I digress. All right, now let's get on into that volleyball action. All right, so tomorrow, as of this recording, is the AVCA/Terraflex women's volleyball poll for the preseason. The old saying goes, the first polls are the worst polls, but honestly, it's a good way to see where everyone is at in terms of the top 25. So in honor of that, I'm going to give you all my top 10 teams that are going to be, that I predict will be in the AVCA/Terraflex women's volleyball poll. Now, this is for only the top 10. The top 10. So from 10 all the way up to 1 is where I'm going to predict. I didn't want to go all out just because I feel that would make this show a little bit longer. Plus, knowing me, I'm probably going to put a team that doesn't deserve to be on the top 25 that I think. So I'm just going to limit it to top 10 just because I don't want to eat up much of your guys' time. So without any further delay, let's get on into that top 10. So starting off at number 10. Tennessee. Now, I bet you everyone is probably screaming into your screen or wherever you're watching from on why I have this team ranked. Well, for starters, they lost quite a bit to graduation, but most of the SEC lost a lot to graduation outside of like Texas and whatnot, but I digress. So Tennessee is number 10 just because it's so tough to pick who number 10 should be. I actually wanted to go with Creighton at number 10, but I feel that might be a wee bit too high. So I think Tennessee starting off at number 10 is a good projection. Now, Tennessee, they lost quite a bit to the transfer portal and to graduation. They lost Erica Lovett. They lost Janasia Moore. They also lost Yelenise Torres. And they definitely lost Morgan Fingal, who was their cornerstone player. So Tennessee is number 10. As I got to give a shout to Yukio. He says, good day to you, Teran. Have a great show. Thank you, Yukio. I appreciate you tuning in. Yukio is one of the diehards of iSports Radio. I think he's the first inductee of the iSports Radio Hall of Fame. So thank you for tuning in, Yukio. It really means a lot. But back to Tennessee. So they've got some notable returners. They've got Ashlyn King, Caroline Kerr, who was a standout freshman setter. And they also return Keandrea Granberry, who is their only triple-digit kill returner. She had 162 kills, but she also led the team in blocks with 108. So that's a notable player that returns there. Do I think Tennessee is going to be moving the needle? I think they can, but they've got a lot of competition. Florida's probably going to be up there. Kentucky should still be as talented as ever with Brooklyn DeLay. Obviously, Texas coming into the SEC makes things a bit difficult. You never know with Arkansas. I really want to put Arkansas into this top 10 or into my predicted top 10. But honestly, I just think Tennessee kind of edges them out because Arkansas also lost quite a bit to graduation as well. So that's where I have Tennessee at in terms of my predicted AVCA top 10 teams in the top 10. So number 9, I'm going to go with Oregon. Now, some of you will probably argue this one as well, as Oregon, they're also a talented team. And the first person that comes to mind when it comes to Oregon is Mimi Collier. 459 kills, straight up stud. She also had 293 digs. She was just phenomenal last year. She was probably the focal point and biggest positive of this Oregon team. But they lost quite a bit to graduation. They lost Hannah Pukis, Georgia Murphy, Morgan Lewis, Cara McGee, Carson Bacon. They lost pretty much all their starting lineup to graduation. So this Oregon team is going to have a whole lot of a different look. But they've got some good other players that they got via the transfer portal, as they got Mackenzie Morris from Kansas State. She is big time right there. That is a huge get from the transfer portal for the Ducks, especially taking over for Georgia Murphy. Now, the center position is going to be a big, interesting void to fill, if you ask me, especially with Pukis having graduated, as they recently got freshman Evelina Giorgiani. If I mispronounce that, I do apologize. But Evelina Giorgiani is going to be a freshman setter. I think signs are pointing to her maybe being the starter. But honestly, anything can happen with Matt Ulmer's team. They also got Oni Afobu, who didn't really see much playing time last year. And they also got Michelle Oobete from the transfer portal. She transfers from UC Santa Barbara. She's an outside hitter. She's going to be complimenting Collier really well. And I really think that Oregon deserves to be a top 10 team. Now, I think Oregon can be interchangeable depending on how they start. The same can be said for Tennessee. Like, Oregon and Tennessee were the toughest to debate. But I felt Tennessee was much more tougher. Oregon, I think, has a lot of promise and upside to their team. I just think that when it comes to their team, I feel that it's gonna take a lot of getting used to. But Mimi Collier is a fantastic player. And that's why I think Oregon deserves to be number 9. Jumping to number 8, we have the Purdue Boilermakers. Now, Purdue was a definite obvious one to put on this list just because I think they belong on this top 10. They have the talent. I think they can definitely make some noise this season. I think that's the perfect shade of Purdue color right there. I couldn't really give them black, but it is what it is. All right, but Purdue is number 8. They returned quite a bit of players. The first player that comes to my mind when it comes to this team is Eva Hudson. Eva had over 550 kills, 560 to be exact. But she's also complemented by Chloe Chicoine that returns. You also got Lourdes Myers. Raven Colvin also returns. They did lose their libero in Maddie Skemmerhorn, but they also returned Taylor Anderson at the setter position, which I think is big time right there. Grace Heaney also is a notable returner for the Boilermakers. I really wanted to put Purdue pretty high, but unfortunately, I just couldn't. I think 8 is totally fine. I think this team has a lot of upside, and this team's going to be a problem when it comes to the Big Ten and to anyone else. I think Purdue is knocking on that door in terms of possibly beating a really good team and being a fringe contender. I think they could be a fringe contender this season because the amount of players that they return, other than the libero position, of course, is huge right there. So I think for Purdue, they have a lot of upside to their team, and I'd buy stock on this team just because of those players that I just mentioned, and Eva Hudson, Chloe Chicoine, that's basically the two-headed monster. And their middle blocker duo and Raven Colvin and Lourdes Myers, that's also big time right there. So in my mind, I think Purdue is going to be a very talented team. And heck, I think 8 might not be high enough. But if you look at the rest of my top 10, I think you all see why I put them there. So jumping to number 7, I got Penn State. So Penn State is also another obvious one. I think Penn State, to me, is definitely top 10 worthy. And I want to give you, there's the black, but there's the navy blue. There's the navy blue. I want to give them a nice little shade of navy blue. I want to give all the teams they put on here the perfect coloring. So number 7 I have is Penn State. So their first player that obviously comes to mind in terms of their returning players is Jess Maruzic. But they also bring back Taylor Trammell, Cameron Hanna, Gillian Grimes, and Angelina Stark. Now, their biggest question mark is going to be their setter. But I think they have that void filled with freshman setter Izzy Stark, who is actually the younger sister of Angelina Stark. They also have a middle blocker. They have a bunch of middle blockers that are talented. They got Carolina Dravicius, who transferred from Nebraska, and Maggie Mendelson, who also transferred from Nebraska. So that middle blocker 2 position is going to be up in the air between those two. Heck, we can maybe even see all 3 middle blockers in the rotation. Doubt it, but I don't know. Trammell is definitely a lock for that middle blocker 1 position, and this Penn State team is really going to be stacked. I think this Penn State team is going to be just as good as they were last year. Last year, obviously, they fell in the Sweet 16 to Wisconsin, but I think once Izzy Stark starts to get her sea legs, I think this team is going to be rolling. This team was selected to finish 3rd in the Big Ten for a reason, and I think they have a lot of upside to their team. I would not be surprised if Penn State even made the jump to the top 5. And Katie Schumacher-Colley has done a fantastic job with this program, taking over for the legendary Russ Rose. So that's why I have Penn State at number 7. Now jumping over to number 6, we have Stanford. Now, Stanford, look, I actually really want to put them in the top 10. Oh, that's a pink. There we go. So I really want to put Stanford in the top 10, even though I think that's lighter red, but I digress. But I want to put Stanford in the top 10 just because I feel they are very deserving. I know they lost quite a bit to graduation, but honestly, I think they will be fine in terms of their roster. I think this team has a lot of upside to them. I think Stanford has a good amount of returning players. They don't return Kendall Kitt. They don't return Katie Baird. So those are 2 big losses right there. But they do return quite a bit to their team. They obviously return Elena Ogilvy. They return Cami Minor, Sammy Francis. They also return I'm blanking on the outside hitter's name from Stanford who was really good in her freshman year. It was I'm blanking on it, but I'm probably going to figure it out eventually. But Stanford does have a good amount of returners for this upcoming season. I think this team definitely has a lot of upside. I really want to put them in the top 5, but I just think that there's going to be a work in progress. And now I remember the name, Elia Rubin. How can I forget her name? She was on that Marymount team that went undefeated. But Elia Rubin is a fantastic player. I think she's going to succeed Kendall Kipp quite well. I would also keep an eye out for Julia Blyashov. She's a fantastic player. I think she would have gotten more playing time. Unfortunately, Stanford was deep in terms of talent at the pins with Kendall Kipp and Baird and Rubin. So I think for Stanford, it's going to be a work in progress, getting used to not having Kendall Kipp. And I know Stanford was picked to finish 2nd in the ACC, but I'm also going to say I find it hard to believe just because Stanford, they still have some questions to answer, unlike the team that's going to be ranked higher than them, which just so happens to be Louisville. Now, Louisville is a no-brainer to put in the top 5. Some maybe Stanford fans will argue and say Stanford deserves to be in the top 5, but Louisville, they return quite a bit to their team. They return Anna DeBeer, which is big time right there. She almost had 400 kills. They also return Cara Cressy, which is so big. They return PK Kong. Ellie Glock returns at setter. Charity Looper is another pin hitter that returns. Elena Scott returns at the libero. The only players that don't return from last year's team are Iko Jones, which obviously is a tough one right there. But that's pretty much it. other than Iko Jones not returning, this Louisville team is stacked. That's why I put them ahead of Stanford. Some will argue Stanford deserves to be in the top 5 based off the ACC coaches poll, but I think that Louisville deserves to be in the top 5 just because of the AVCA coaches poll, just because they have so many talented players that return. And unfortunately for them, they got reverse swept in the quarterfinals of the NCAA tournament, or the regional final, which obviously was a big bummer, losing to your conference rival in Pitt. But I think for Danny Busboom Kelly's team, they're going to be just fine this season. I think this team has loads of upside, and don't be surprised if they make another return trip to the quarterfinals. If not, maybe even make the Final Four. So Louisville at number 5 is valid in my opinion, and I don't think anybody should argue with it. Now jumping over to number 4, we have Pitt, or Pittsburgh, which is the correct vernacular when it comes to them. But for Pitt, this one is also kind of a no-brainer. Pitt returns a good amount of players. They return none other than Olivia Babcock, who is eyeballing being on the U.S. Olympic team in 2028, which I definitely have to salute just because I think she definitely can make it onto that team. But I digress. So Pitt returns Olivia Babcock. Tori Stafford's another returner. Valeria Vasquez Gomez, another returner for this Pitt team. Bree Kelly, even though she saw a limited time, she returns for this team. The big thing that I think the big question mark that I think this team kind of has is their middle blockers. I feel the middle blocker position is a little if you ask me. As Yukio says, hail to Pitt. Yes, I do know that Yukio is a Pittsburgh fan. But Pitt, I think, is going to be a really talented team. I really think they can get to the Final Four again. With the talent that they have, you have to remember that they had young talent, but they wound up making it to the Final Four, which is no easy feat. They also returned Cat Flood as well, which I think is pretty incredible as well. Their big losses, however, were Chiamaka Nokolo. Emma Monks was also a big loss in terms of graduation as well. But I think this team will be just fine in terms of who they have on their team versus who they don't have. And again, this team was actually picked to finish first in the ACC. So Pitt has taken the volleyball world by storm. And I think this Pitt team is going to be some kind of special this season. Obviously, they lost to the buzzsaw that was Nebraska, but Nebraska was on a whole other level. So I digress in that regard. But Pitt is going to be it this year, and don't be surprised if they have another return trip to the Final Four. So number 3 in my predicted top 10 teams in the AVCA poll is Wisconsin. Now, this is another no-brainer right here, just because Wisconsin does return, obviously, the AVCA Player of the Year in Sarah Franklin. That is clearly the player to watch for, and I'm trying to give Wisconsin the best shade of red, because number 2 is going to have a lighter shade of red, but whatever. This will do. So Wisconsin is number 3, and I feel that this team has so much upside to their team. Some will say that losing Timmy Thomas-Ilara is going to hurt them. Well, I disagree, because they obviously return Sarah Franklin, last year's AVCA Player of the Year, and it looks like she is slated to start in week 1, which is big. If you remember, she actually had an ankle injury when playing for, I think, the US U21 team, and unfortunately, there was doubt that she would be ready for the season opener. But this Wisconsin team is going to be something special. They've also got Anna Smrek that returns, Yulia Orzel returns, Carter Booth, Caroline Crawford, Devin Robinson, Gulse Gudikin. That's another big returner right there. And they also got Charlie Furbringer run the offense. Now, some are probably saying who's going to run the offense with the graduation of MJ Hamill and Izzy Ashburn. Charlie Furbringer. And if not her, Carly Anderson, who transferred from Montana. But Charlie Furbringer, I can't really say enough good about her, and I'm not going to go basically write a novel about her. Obviously, she is fantastic, and I saw her play at Miracosta High School. I think she's going to be very comfortable. I mean, she'll obviously have some growing pains, but the positives are going to outweigh the negatives. I think Wisconsin is in good hands with her. and I don't think this team is going anywhere with her setting the offense. So Orzel, in my opinion, I think should definitely be the clear-cut libero for this team. Last year, I think she had to play a little outside, but then she moved back to her libero position. But now that I think that the libero position is all said and done, we will see her at libero officially. So that's number 3. So number 2 on my predicted top 10 AVCA women's volleyball coaches poll or women's volleyball poll is Nebraska. Now, this also is a 100% no-brainer, and let me give them the correct shade of red, perfectamundo. All right, this one is a complete no-brainer. Nebraska, in my opinion, might be the deepest team on this list. They returned practically everybody. Merritt Beeson, they returned Andy Jackson, Harper Murray, Lexi Rodriguez, they returned Bergen Riley, Lainey Choboy, Kennedy Orr. This team has a lot of depth on their team. And the scary part is that most of it is young. And that's not all. They returned, they have 2 other players that they got through the transfer portal. They got Layla Blackwell from San Diego and Indiana. They also got Taylor Landfair from Minnesota. And keep an eye on this player, Skylar Pierce. She's a freshman outside hitter. Now, she might not see a whole lot of action, but John Cook is doing a great job in terms of getting these talented players. Like Skylar Pierce, in my opinion, is going to be the future for this Nebraska team. And she's going to be some kind of scary for opposing offenses. And she's going to be some kind of wonderful for Husker Nation. So as for the reason why I have Nebraska number 2 is they made it all the way to the national championship match with a bunch of young players. I'd be shocked if this team didn't find a way back into the national championship match. I think Nebraska has a lot of upside to their team. I just don't see a scenario of how this team doesn't make it to the national championship match, if not the Final Four. Because I'm pretty sure we could all agree that they'll be having the home court. And they were selected to finish first amongst the Big Ten standings, and I would put them at number 1 as well. Nothing against Wisconsin, but I just think Nebraska just has it in them. They have the coaching staff, they have the players. The scary and good thing is that they also have some veteran experience. Now, I think obviously Nebraska, I don't think they'll be. They obviously won't be cakewalking because they're obviously. That got a random spam call, but I will just say they're not going to breeze through their schedule that easy, but I will just say that nobody's going to be taking this team down easily. If anything, they're going to be very, 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 very good. So I feel that putting them at number 2 is right where they belong. I'm sorry to Husker Nation. I would like to put them at number 1, but I feel that this team just fall short to number 1. And number 1 is, can we get a drum roll, please? Trying to keep y'all in suspense. Number 1 is none other than Texas. So, yeah, Texas, the reigning national champion. I have them at number 1 for a bunch of reasons. Number 1, they're the reigning national champion. Number 2, they are stacked across the board. Yes, they lost Asia O'Neal. Yes, they lost Bella Bergmark. Yes, they lost Holly Phillips. No, I don't think this team is going to be taking a step back. This team returns Maddie Skinner, most outstanding player of the tournament. What can I say? She is some kind of special, and all she does is win. They also return Jenna Wenes, who had herself quite the surge. They also return Keanile Akana, who's a very complimentary player. I think she's very overlooked, in my opinion. And Nebraska fans, apologies if I have to bring her name up, but I think she is a very complimentary player, and I think she's going to do wonders for this Texas team. They also have Emma Halter, who returns. Ella Swindle also returns, but I did hear that she did have surgery, so she might not be back in time. Not to worry, they actually brought in a setter by the name of Avery Carlson from one of their former Big 12 outliers. or former Big 12 rivals in Baylor. They also brought in Reagan Rutherford at opposite. Now, that was kind of the big question mark I was having for Texas this season. Who's going to fill in at the right side for Molly Phillips? Easy. Reagan Rutherford. You also got Devin Kawahahi. If I mispronounced that last name, I apologize. But they also got Devin Kay, who returns. Bella Bergmark was kind of a big loss for this team. But this Texas team just knows how to reload. They don't rebuild, they reload. And I really think that this team is going to be very scary. I think they also bring back Mariana Singletary as well, and they do. So keep an eye out for her as well. She didn't really see too much action, but I think this team is going to be just fine. And again, for those that want to say that Texas is literally going to be for Texas, that losing Asia O'Neal is going to hurt them, I 1000% disagree. I think Texas is going to be better, if not is going to be better than they were last year. And honestly, that's a scary thing to realize, because obviously they didn't have Asia O'Neal to start the season, but I think they will be just fine. So that is basically my top 10. Going to be bringing my favorite Royal Blue back. So just to recap the top 10, we have my predicted top 10. We have Tennessee at 10, Oregon at 9, Purdue at 8, Penn State at 7, Stanford at 6, Louisville 5, Pittsburgh or Pitt at 4, Wisconsin at 3, Nebraska at 2, and Texas at 1. So those are my predicted top 10 teams that I think will be in the top 10 in that particular order in tomorrow's AVCA Terraflex Coaches Bowl. That's actually going to be on Six Rotations' X account. And yeah, it's going to be live streamed. I think it's also going to be live streamed. So it's, and the start time for that is going to be at 9 a.m. So I'm going to have to clear out my plans and be ready to live tweet when that happens. Also have to give a little shout out to my former Set Point guest, Daniel Gilman, who will be back with Six Rotations with Mick Haley, who I interviewed back at the First Point Collegiate Challenge. All right, but that's going to do it for the predicted top 10 from my mind. So we're going to take ourselves a quick little commercial break. When we come back, we've got the Manhattan Beach Open to recap, and then we have some reflection to do when it comes to the season 5 finale of Set Point. And I want to get y'all ready for season 6. So keep it locked here. You are listening to Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hello, sports fans. It's me, your boy Larry B, and I want to walk you through the world of sports. No, not just the mainstream major TV deal type sports, although those are important too. But let me be your guide through your journey of all sports, from college to the pros, the minors, and everything in between. Each week, we are talking sports galore with true diehards just like you from a hardcore fan's perspective that's sure to quench your thirst around leagues you may know all too well and some you may even discover here. That's right, sports fans. If you love sports of all kinds, enjoy hearing amazing sports stories, and respect all sports because you know how difficult any of them can be to play or compete in, then this is your show. Join me, your boy Larry B, on the defining moment each week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports, and let the sports come to you.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernick, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And we are back with the second half and last part of the Season 5 finale of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows, such as The Defining Moment, as well as Chi-Town Weekly. But without any further delay, let's get on into the second half of our show. So this past weekend, we had an AVP tournament. We had the Manhattan Beach Open, which is definitely big because it's the granddaddy of them all. And if you win said tournament, you get your name put on the Manhattan Beach, or the pairs get their name put on the Manhattan Beach, the Manhattan Beach Pier for that matter. So for the AVP, this is basically the second to last tournament before the AVP League, and that's going to be big time right there. So a lot of talented pairs vying for the AVP League. The only guaranteed ones that are basically punch their ticket in are Taylor Crabb and Taylor Sander on the men's side, and then on the women's side is Melissa Humana Paredes and Brandy Wilkerson. No one else has clinched a spot in the AVP League, which I think is pretty lame, but it is what it is. All right, but as for the men's side of things, the winner of the Manhattan Beach Open on the men's side was Theo Brunner and Trevor Crabb. They managed to beat Andy Benish and Miles Partain in the final, which was a two-setter, which it was closer than expected. But honestly, I will say it was pretty darn good. It was a pretty darn good final, and I was rather impressed with Theo Brunner and Trevor Crabb. Now, they dropped only one set overall in the tournament, and that was actually in the semifinals to Team Taylor themselves, Taylor Crabb and Taylor Sander. Now, for Theo Brunner and Trevor Crabb, those two wound up winning the Manhattan Beach Open. So Trevor Crabb has actually won his fourth Manhattan Beach Open in the past 5 years when the AVP has been around. So in terms of, he's won 4 out of the last 5 Manhattan Beach Opens on the men's side of things. So pretty impressive if you ask me. And then Theo Brunner is a first-time winner, which I think is pretty darn cool if you ask me. So great job to those two. And only dropping one set, that's pretty impressive. And then I think Avery Drost, a friend of the show and former Set Point guest, he and his partner, Phil Dalhouser, finished tied for 7th, if not 5th. Regardless, it still was a good showing. They went 2-0 in the first day, but unfortunately, they lost their first match of the, I think it was of the quarterfinals which was a match before the before the qualifier for the quarterfinals or the winners bracket final the winners bracket final all the way to Championship Sunday. And then eventually they lost another one in the contenders bracket to Sean Cook and Cody Caldwell. So tough one for Avery Drost. I hope he and whoever his partner is, whether it's Jake Arudia or Phil Dalhouser, they're able to make the AVP League, just because I got to show love for all of the former Set Point guests. All right, but that is that for the men's side of things. Now, on the women's side of things, the winners on the women's side were Taryn Cloth and Kristen Nuss. Now, for those two, and I guess I should make note of all the other Olympians. The Olympians that made the transition from Olympics back to the AVP, that's not really the most easiest thing, in my opinion, just because, well, obviously you're coming off of heartbreak if you're the U.S., but you're also trying to get back into civilization in California. You go from one country going back to the other, and you basically are going from Olympics to AVP. So in my mind, that's no easy transition. But Teran Cloth and Kristen Nuss, obviously we all know their heartbreak in terms of the Olympics. They were the number two overall seed. They lost in the first round to Melissa Humana-Paredes and Brandy Wilkerson, who wound up finishing with silver in the Olympics. So for them, this was their moment to pretty much try to bounce back and get back into the swing of things. And they did in terms of the AVP, as they wound up beating the previous Manhattan Beach Open champions, Julia Scholes and Betsy Flint, in 3 sets. They dropped the first set, but they wound up winning the second set. And then I wouldn't say they ran away with the third set, but it was pretty one-sided if you ask me. But overall, it was a great bounce back for Teran Cloth and Kristen Nuss, who actually only dropped 2 sets overall. They lost a set in the quarterfinals, or I think in the third round of the winners bracket, where they lost a set to Teran Rodriguez and Gina Yarongo. And then eventually they faced the two again in the semifinals and wound up sweeping them. And then obviously they had to go 3 with Scholes and Flint, which they actually were the winners of the Manhattan Beach Open from last year, which, fun fact, they actually became the first number 1 seed to lose in the first round to a 32 seed or 33 seed, and then wind up winning the Manhattan Beach Open or any tournament, which I think is pretty darn impressive. Just a little Snapple fun fact for you all right there. But for Teran Cloth and Kristen Nuss, I think that's great that they were able to bounce back. Now, for Julia Scholes and Betsy Flint, a pair that they had to beat in order to even get to the final was Sarah Hughes and Kelly Cheng, which is no easy feat, just because those two are Olympians. They finished 5th in the Olympics, and obviously they had a lot of pressure on them just because they're the reigning champions of the Manhattan Beach Open. And again, they're facing Olympians, U.S. Olympians. So I think for Scholes and Flint, they had a successful Manhattan Beach Open. Unfortunately, it wasn't ideal, but hey, I think they just really impressed. They really impressed me, and it's never easy to repeat unless you're Sarah Hughes and Kelly Cheng back in 2023, but I digress. Now, there were some notable upsets on the women's side of the Manhattan Beach Open, which really caught my eye. Now, the first upset, now this was a big upset. This was number 28 seed Jacinda Ramirez and Maya Gessner, who I know Ramirez is an LMUer, but I don't know if Maya Gessner is LMU, but I imagine they are. But Maya Gessner and Jacinda Ramirez upset the 5 seed April Ross and Alex Kleinman, which I thought was really good. That was a big upset. Now, I know April Ross and Alex Kleinman are both trying to find their sand legs, but it's just kind of hard to believe that Ramirez and Gessner would beat a Paragon pair like Ross and Kleinman, who both wound up winning gold in the Tokyo Olympics. So Ramirez and Gessner pulling off that upset was pretty darn impressive, if you ask me. And they also wound up making it to day 2, 2-0. And then another upset that happened on the women's side of the AVP's Manhattan Beach Open was Lindsay Sparks and Piper Fetch. I think it's Piper Fitch. Regardless, Lindsay Sparks and Piper Fitch managed to beat 6 seed Haley Harward and Kylie DeBerg in straight sets as well, which I thought was pretty darn impressive, if you ask me. So keep in mind they were the 27th seed overall. So it was just mind-boggling, if you ask me. So that's such a big win right there for those two pairs. And Lindsay Sparks and Piper Fitch almost beat April Ross and Alex Kleinman in the contenders bracket. But unfortunately for those two, Ross and Kleinman were able to inch out the win. But it just goes to show that these young cats, or all these newcomers or re-newcomers from the AVP, are starting to make waves. So you got to keep an eye on them. And if you don't know Lindsay Sparks' story, definitely go check it out, because there was a moment where Lindsay Sparks might not have been able to play volleyball anymore, but she is now back on the sand and she is kicking butt and taking names. So great job to Lindsay Sparks and her partner on having themselves a successful Manhattan Beach Open tournament. All right, but that is that for the Manhattan Beach and AVP portion of the show. So we only have one more tournament remaining. Yes, one more AVP tournament, and that is going to be in Chicago. I don't think it's this week, but it's the following weekend. So the Chicago Open is basically the granddaddy of them all. It's the last chance to basically make your way into the AVP League. And then the AVP League starts, and that's when all bets are off. So I'm really looking forward to the Chicago Open. It's going to be in Adam Karnick's neck of the woods. So, Adam, if you're listening, I want a 500-word essay on the AVP's Chicago Open. All right, but that is that for the AVP portion of the show. We're going to take one last commercial break. When we come back, I'm going to be basically recapping all that has happened in season 5 of Set Point and gearing you up for season 6. So keep it locked here. You're listening to Set Point here on iSports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
What's good, everyone? It's Drewski, the host of Heart of Texas Sports on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. On this station, we cover everything in the Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area. From we cover the Dallas Cowboys, the Dallas Stars, Dallas Mavericks, Dallas Wings, Texas Rangers, TCU, SMU, we cover it all right here every Wednesdays from 9 to 10 p.m. Central Time. Make sure you stay live with me on the Heart of Texas Sports on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey sports fans, are you in the market for Florida sports or just keeping up with the latest in the Panhandle? Palm Tree Sports is a dedicated audio hub to all things sports in the Sunshine State. We cover current events, big news, heavily favored opinions all across the NFL, NBA, MLB, and so much more. So come check us out every Saturday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a down south education on Florida sports and athletics. It's hosted by yours truly, Corey Pujols, and is powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back to the final part of Season 5 of Set Point here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Make sure to check out Palm Tree Sports, which actually will be going live in about 30-ish minutes. And also, if you saw on the commercial when Drewski's commercial was played in Heart of Texas Sports, Davidson Crooks popped into the chat room. He said, hit that like button. I appreciate you for tuning in. Davidson Crooks is a great teammate in terms of IE Sports Radio. And I'm surprised he was able to comment, even though I think he's doing Fast Break right now. If he is doing Fast Break, then awesome. I actually don't know if he is, but I can't really confirm that. But regardless, I appreciate you for being a great teammate, Davidson. And in case you're wondering, Chase Budinger actually finished third along with Miles Evans in the Manhattan Beach Open. So the former NBA player is still making waves, even though he and his partner wound up losing in the top 16 of the Olympics. So I digress. All right, but let's get on into the final part of the show, and then I will basically send you all on your way. So Season 5 is pretty much over and done with. A lot happened in terms of Season 5 of Set Point. For starters, you're now seeing my mug on the camera, which I think is pretty cool. I was a little skeptical on if making the transition from StreamYard was a good idea or not. I think it's a great idea just because I think, no offense to Spreaker, but I think visual is starting to take over the world in terms of like social media and whatnot. I think everyone would like to see would like to see visuals and whatnot. So I really think that switching to StreamYard was the best thing for me. And I really have to give a shout out to Larry B. I will just also say he does so much for the station. He does so much for iSports Radio. And I feel bad because I actually remember how I said I messed up in my introduction on my initial attempt. Well, for starters, yeah, I messed up, and he had to recreate my this episode. So before I went live, so Larry B, I know you're busy with lots of things going on, but your work with iSports Radio and you helping me transition to StreamYard did not go unnoticed by me. And I really do appreciate you for helping me get off the ground in terms of going live on StreamYard. And for those that don't know, I actually use my phone to go live on StreamYard. Yes, I tried using StreamYard on my laptop. I did everything I could. I got an Ethernet cable, plugged it into my Wi-Fi, did not work. I cleared out a lot of storage space in my laptop, still did not work. So it's either I use my iPhone or bust. But now I am on StreamYard for good. Even though it's a lot of work with using my phone, I'm not going to back down and I'm not going to give up. So that's the first thing that happened in terms of season 5. So the second thing that happened in season 5 is that I actually got to cover the national championship in terms of men's volleyball, which I thought was super duper cool right there. And it was such a great experience covering all the matches. Okay, I missed one match, which was Long Beach State and Belmont Abbey, but honestly, the beach, I didn't miss much with Long Beach State and Belmont Abbey. And I also missed a good portion of Grand Canyon and Ohio State. But again, that also resulted in a sweep. But I digress. But it was such a fun experience. I wish I had more time to cover the media day. And also it was so great that the national championship was at Long Beach State, which is actually my alma mater. Yes, for those that don't know, I am a Long Beach State alum. I try not to show my pride in my team for too much, just because I don't like being a homer and whatnot, but it is what it is. All right, but covering that national championship was absolutely amazing. Covering the whole tournament was awesome. And I'm glad I got to meet a majority of the people that I interact with on X or any part of social media, like Daniel Gilman, Rob St. Clair. The list goes on and on. I think his last name is O'Brien, but he's part of the AVCA committee. I got to meet Carl France, the Fairleigh Dickinson men's volleyball coach, who's also on the NCAA men's volleyball committee. So that was fun times right there. And here's hoping I can have some of these people on my show. So there's that right there. And that's actually a perfect segue to go into the season 6 premiere, which will be next week. And I promise you all, I will have it on my normal time and day. This is only temporary. I don't think I'll be going live on Sunday ever, just because tomorrow I'm so booked. And then Tuesday, I'm also fairly booked as well. Wednesday, I'm also booked. Thursday, I'm booked for the most part. So it's either today I do set point in terms of the season 5 finale, or I don't do it at all. And I ain't missing set point no matter what happens. Anyway, so for the season 6 premiere, unlike the Teen Titans on Cartoon Network, which didn't get a season 6, Set Point will be having a season 6 premiere next week. So I do want to beg you all the question. Who do you want to see on the season 6 premiere of Set Point? I'm willing to bring on any guest, and if you are listening, I will try my hardest to reach out to anyone and everyone to try to bring on a guest. If it means I got to shuffle around my show, which I imagine I'm going to be working next Monday, so be it. But I really want to have a memorable season 6. Like, I really want to kick off season 6 on a big night. I just don't want it to be me previewing all the top matches. And I promise you all, season 6 is going to be a season to remember. I'm probably going to be having clips of volleyball matches. I'm also going to be having notable interviews that I might not release to the public right away. But if anything, I will just say it's going to be fun times. I really want to make season 6 my season for Set Point, because and at the end of August, or not end of August, end of September, that's going to be when Set Point turns 5 years old. 5 years old. I can't believe it's been 5 years since I went live on Spreaker when my first words were, what's up, everybody? It's Teran Rodriguez. I was a nervous train wreck, and you already know I'm going to be playing back the audio when it came to that first episode. But honestly, this has been such a great season. I enjoyed season 5 of Set Point, and I'm really excited for season 6. Again, I got to cover a lot of big time matches. I covered USA women's volleyball in their friendly match against Netherlands. I got to cover the national championship on the men's side of things. I got to cover the First Point Invitational, which I think was pretty awesome. I also covered a plethora of. I also got to cover the MPSF men's volleyball tournament and the inaugural Big West Women's Volleyball Championships, so which I thought was pretty awesome as well. So a lot of firsts in terms of Set Point. I can't wait to see what's next for Set Point in season 6. But on that note, that is going to do it for this week's episode of Set Point. I really do appreciate y'all tuning in. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you. If you listen at any time, any place, anywhere, I appreciate you. You people are the reason why I keep doing what I do. And if you ever have any suggestions for me, definitely let me know. I want to do everything I can to improve Set Point, make it the one-stop shop for all that is volleyball. I promise you all, I really want to take Set Point to greater heights when it comes to season 6 and when it comes to the 2024-2025 volleyball season. But that is going to do it for Set Point. For everyone here at IE Sports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have yourself a great rest of the week. I will see you all on Saturday at Long Beach State for the Long Beach State LMU women's volleyball scrimmage. And I'll see you all on Friday for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Peace!